Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk a bit about the Donald Trump situation. I refrained from doing so in the past days because I thought, okay, everybody's talking and there's little I can actually add that hasn't been said already. Yet the Deutsche Bank has decided to completely stop any business relationship with the entire Trump empire, with the entire corporation. And we are talking about 340 million US dollars. That's the volume the Trump empire owed to the Deutsche Bank. They are paying their interests regularly. There are no issues. But for political reasons and only those, they are now shutting down all the accounts and they are selling off the debt and so on and so on. So they don't want to work with the entire corporation. So they are punishing your average person that's working for the Trump corporation. It's the construction workers, it's secretaries, it's the little guys who fear for their jobs because they are hard hit by the corona crisis. A lot of hotels, a lot of restaurants and so on that belong to that empire. And as such, your little person is supposed to suffer for taking jobs that are totally innocuous. And this comes from a left that pretends to be for the little guy, but stands first and foremost for aggressive retribution. If retribution is even the correct word, because I don't actually think they are so much concerned about rights. Leave alone the Black Lives Matters riots that are usually given as an example. There were also riots after the election in 2016, if you remember, that Hillary Clinton did not stop immediately like Donald Trump. In contrast, she actually called for a resistance. She cheered people on who were rioting in the streets. Then they try to make the case that the Capitol is this sanctimony, holy place that stands for democracy in itself. Well, strange enough, the elite University Berkeley was not a holy place. When Ann Coulter or Milo Yiannopoulos tried to speak there, then suddenly the riots there were also just, a bit noisier kind of protest and nothing to worry about. The difference, though, is that those riots were actually not just symbolic, they effectively stopped speech and they scared people into silence. So the example they set with Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos, who are fairly wealthy and who have some outlets because they have long-standing connections. Your average person noticed and they became scared. They did not dare anymore to speak in public because of all this rioting. We also see that the AfD in Germany does not get rooms they can rent. This also goes down well with the left because Antifa regularly rioted against restaurants, hotels, and so on. Whoever tried to host the AfD had to face the consequences of Antifa riots. All of that was okay. So I don't believe the bullcrap that they are now terribly concerned about the riots in the Capitol. And you also remember how during the Black Lives Matter riots, people died. It was not just this one incident, and it's also 2 people who died on the Capitol Hill, not 5. I know there was this woman who was shot, and there was this police officer who died. The exact cause of death, I think, is still unclear. There was this speculation with a fire extinguisher, but that has not been confirmed so far. How he died is not clear, and there were 3 other people who were mentioned. However, their cause of death was never explained. One case was hinted to as a stroke, and that is becoming ludicrous because if you have such a large crowd of people, and I'm not talking about the rioters, there were actually a few people, but the entire protest, these were thousands and thousands of people, in an area that is densely populated, you eventually have some heart attacks and strokes and so on because of the sheer size of people in one place. So quite naturally, this is statistics, and some people do die every day if you have a large number of people. So the people who actually died on the Capitol Hill because of violence are probably this woman and the police officer. And now it stands to us when the left will come down again, because they behave like little toddlers who pretend that everything is unique that is happening on the conservative side, and they complain about whataboutism. This is what I just did. I just explained that there are other instances in our history, and very recent history, that are similar and that did not scare the shit out of the left, and suddenly they just engage in this mass craze and pretend that everything that is done on the conservative side are highly, highly toxic and dangerous and so on and so on. And it sends to us when they will calm down again. I have met the experience that in Germany they scandalize calming down as such. And the word they usually use is Verharmlosung or trivialization, and it is supposed to remind them of all these idiots who try to play down the numbers of the Holocaust victims. And so whenever you try to say, well, you know, something isn't actually that big, it's only that big, like if you want to correct a true exaggeration, be it about racism, climate change, or be it about this incident on the Capitol Hill, whatever the hysteria is about, whenever you try to calm people down, then it reminds them of Mahmoud Abbas, I guess, who has written his entire dissertation about how the Holocaust only affected a couple of thousand people who mainly died of natural causes anyways, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, there are these true idiots, but, you know, strange enough, they always roll out the red carpet for Mr. Abbas, but are now screaming the theater is on fire when there is this riot on the Capitol Hill. Anyways, well, but sometimes you have one group that is exaggerating a problem or a danger to the degree that, you know, you have Nancy Pelosi telling everybody that Donald Trump could nuke us all, could extinguish life on Earth every minute if we don't stop him right now. And after you have actually exaggerated the danger to that degree from 0 to 100, people have to calm down again, okay? And if you vilify calming down, that is a problem in itself. You create a mass craze, okay? You must sometimes allow people to calm you down. And of course, the reason why they want to impeach Donald Trump is not because they actually fear that he is going to kill us all. The true reason is that they need the propaganda. They need to scare everybody of conservatives, of mainstream conservatives. They want a permanent power on the political left. But the actual reason may be that it may remove his security details. And a lot of people think, well, he's a billionaire anyway, so he can probably hire a lot of people. Well, not really. If they take away all the guns, if they criminalize the Proud Boys, etc., etc. So they actually they actually want to remove the protection from Donald Trump and also from people who are conservatives, from your average Thatcherite, your average Reaganite person. You know, that's the person they are going after. They are not after neo-Nazis. They are not after the Ku Klux Klan, as they claim. They are actually after your average conservative, and they want to take your guns. They're constantly talking about taking away your guns. They're constantly talking about taking away your protections. Yeah, well, some people do need to have guns, and they just think if they can control all branches of government, and if they can take away the right of people to defend themselves that is guaranteed in the Constitution, then they will be the only ones with controls of the guns, because the executive branch, in form of the police forces, do have access to guns, and then your average person does no longer have that. Unlike the claim that one single riot is the end of democracy, or that speech about I don't know, gender or culture or whatever is akin to Nazism, is a real danger. Stripping people of their protections while the left, the Democrats and the media ferment one fire after the next, scaremonger the hell out of the wider public. This is a real problem, because we do have more than one riot, and this is actually an exception to the rule. Usually the riots come from the left. So from the experience of the past months, people are afraid of rioters, and quite naturally they don't want their guns to be taken from them. They have this constitutionally protected right, and if people come for their guns, this may end up very violent very quickly. So if Joe Biden and the others don't come around to actually produce the healing they promise, and instead they go into ever more confrontation and into gun grabbing, depriving people of their freedom and at the same time of their protection, that will quite naturally rile people up from both sides, and it is impossible to stay on a higher moral ground. Now I can say, well, the left is still more violent than the conservative side. Well, but this does not last long if the conflicts are just fired up all the time by the same people. There have been a gazillion warnings in the past years that we may slip into a civil war and into a dictatorship. And all these people did was waving that aside and pretend that this were wishful thinking. I mean, how crazy must you be? That this were wishful thinking and that the conservative side would just want it. No, there are some morons, always there are some morons who want stupid things, but your normal person does most certainly not want to live in poverty and in war and conflict and so on. This is not what your average person wants. So maybe you should not just brush that aside. It is a warning, it is not a threat. It is a warning that we may slip into a civil war. And it is a warning that if you aggregate power to the extent that you do, that your bullying may result in totalitarianism. This is a warning. This is not wishful thinking. This is not a threat. This is something we all should actually agree on. We all should come together and say we don't want our freedoms to be taken away from us. We want honesty, we want transparency, we want fairness, and we want the law to be applied equally. You cannot just turn a blind eye on Black Lives Matters and then over-criminalize everything that's done on the conservative side. I am for the punishment of these rioters in the parliament, but I'm also for the punishment of other rioters, of rioting in general. How is this something we cannot agree on anymore? Why is the law and moral rule as such in general now only applied on one side and the other side is totally left off the hook? Why is this? Why don't we have equality before the law anymore? That was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.